It's time now to take a look at what's making headlines in today's newspapers all around the world. And for that, I'm joined on set by Diptyque Laurent. Hello.
Hi, Nadia.
Let's start in the United States then. Donald Trump's impeachment is, of course, dominating headlines.
That's right. The House of Representatives voting overwhelmingly against Donald Trump on charges of abuse of office and obstruction of Congress. Impeached, really the buzzword in the papers today. Look at the front page of the New York Daily News. Impeached, there it is. The paper saying that Donald Trump will be forever stained by this impeachment. He's also now part of a very undesirable club of 3 presidents who faced impeachment in the Senate. For USA Today's cartoonist Mike Thompson, Trump is getting his name finally on a wall, but not the wall he was hoping for.
What are the editorials saying today about impeachment?
Well, in its editorial today, the New York Times really lashing out at the Republicans for, quote, not breathing a word against Donald Trump. The paper deplores their, quote, cowardice and opportunism and accuse them of prizing their power over their principles. The only way to protect American democracy now is to vote these people out. That's what the Times says. The Washington Post sees the impeachment as rather proper and necessary. Unfortunately, though, the Republican-controlled Senate and its leader, Mitch McConnell, have made it clear that they won't be impartial in that impeachment trial next year. The Post saying that Democrats have been accused of cheapening the impeachment remedy. But if the Republicans fail to hold a credible trial, well, then it's they who will be damaging the constitutional system. Meanwhile, you have the conservative Wall Street Journal that stands by its claims, as has been saying in the past, that the Democrats aren't impeaching Donald Trump for Ukraine, but simply because they think he's unfit to be president.
All right, interesting stuff, Diptyque. Now let's move over to Japan, where the papers there are taking a look at a landmark ruling in a high-profile rape case there. Tell us a bit about it, Diptyque.
Well, some of the media, Nadia, have actually named her as a Japanese heroine of the Me Too movement there. Freelance journalist Shiori Ito has been awarded 3.3 million yen in damages. She had brought forward a case accusing a very high-profile broadcast journalist of sexual assault and rape. As the Japan Times explains, this case drew global interest because because so few victims come forward. It's been a long process, though. Ito's initial complaint was dropped by prosecutors in 2016. She says it was due to political interference because her assaulter was linked to President Shinzo Abe.
Okay, very serious story indeed there from Japan, Diptyque. Now, something quite different from the Netherlands. The government there is launching an experiment from next month to allow coffee shops there to buy cannabis for their customers.
That's right. State-approved cannabis in a bid to, it's actually in a bid to combat the black market. The government's rolling out this initiative next month that will allow coffee shops to purchase cannabis from 10 state-approved growers. It won't include the capital, Amsterdam, which has 30% of the country's coffee shops. And it's interesting because Politico explains that the Netherlands has rather complicated laws on cannabis. Shops are allowed to sell small amounts, but it's illegal to engage in the cannabis supply chain, which is why cannabis often comes from the black market. Critics say the experiment should include homegrown cannabis growers to protect the local small businesses, or else there's a risk, they say, of the commercialization of cannabis.
Now, you found a rather sweet story for us, Diptyque, for the holiday season. A Canadian researcher has created the world's smallest gingerbread house, and this is in a lab.
That's right. It's all in the name of science, Nadia. Travis Casagrande, a research associate at McMaster University, used a beam of charged gallium ions to sandblast material off a tiny block of silicon. I'm sure you know what that means. The result, anyway, was that he created an extraordinarily tiny and detailed gingerbread house, including, you can see there, with a welcome mat in the form of the Canadian flag. The house is perched atop a snowman who was also created in the lab. To give you an idea of how small it is, it's 10 times smaller. The gingerbread house is 10 times smaller than the width of a human hair. The experiment, Casagrande says, was to spark people's curiosity and interest in science.
Yeah, it is a lovely image there, Diptyque. Finally, then, staying with the topic of research, it is a British inventor's creation that's sparking something of a backlash from the very people who'd be potentially using us. What's the story that you've got for us here, Diptyque?
Well, you know, toilet technology is constantly evolving, Nadia, but this latest invention just seems a little bit cruel. The newly patented standard toilet invention is far from standard. It's actually a toilet sloped at a 13-degree angle downwards, and it's designed designed to, quote, increase worker productivity by literally making it painful to sit for long periods of time and procrastinate on the can on the job. The inventor says it was inspired by his frustration at seeing co-workers asleep on the toilet. The backlash, as you can imagine, has been swift, some calling it a torture toilet, while Newsweek calls it 2019's greatest villain.
Yeah, that is an extremely depressing thought. Happy to say none for the moment at France 24. Deepti, thank you very much. Deepti Laurent there with a look at some of the headlines from the world's newspapers for you on the programme. And if you'd like more from Deepti and the rest of our press review, as you can, as always, head to our website, france24.com. Much more from Deepti and the rest of our team there.